Hello and welcome to another Zach Carnage video. So today I'm going to be painting up the Necron Tomb Blades. This is the first one I'm going to paint up, and I'm actually going to show a little bit of this, of myself painting on camera, because I've been asked by a few people how do I do certain techniques. So I'm going to start off with my standard greens. So I always start with Dark Angel's green, then we'll move through Snot green, Goblin green, and also Scorpion green. These are the new colours. These are the old colours, so if you're working with new colours, you just have to find similar sorts of pigment. But you should be fine as long as you have a gradiented selection of colours. So first thing, you want to prime the entire model in Chaos Black. I've taken off this little bit here because otherwise it's going to keep falling off, and I have made it so I can swap them out. So I'm going to start off by showing you what I do with my Dark Angel's green, which is very simply I take sort of a rough brush like this one, with a very, like a not perfect end, just dab a little bit into the paint, so you've got about that much on, and then you sort of wipe it off so you get this sort of level of coming off, not very much coming off the brush. And then with that, you can just sort of dab very gently different sections of it. And this is all part of my random Necron paint scheme, which I do with pretty much every vehicle I've got. And it's a very simple idea, you know, just picking up certain areas to try and give them a bit more depth later on. When you're using the Dark Angel screen, which is this bit, it's probably best to focus on areas with like vents and different things. So I'm just literally just dabbing a bit on here and there. So you have to know which areas you want green first, obviously, because you might want some areas to be grey or some areas to be metallic. There we go, so that's pretty much all that we need to do for the first colour. It's very simple. You can kind of see certain areas where it comes up. It doesn't show up very well on the camera, but this section isn't really that noticeable anyway. This is just to improve on the next bit. So next bit, take the same brush, make sure to clean it off a bit, and take your Snot green. And this time we want to get start off by getting quite a thick amount on the brush, and then sort of swirl it around on your newspaper or your palette or whatever you're using, so that it gets right the way through the brush. And you want to do this so that eventually you reach a point at which it's sort of barely coming off the brush at all. You can put a bit more on if you want to speed up the process. So once you got to that stage, you sort of take, this is my dry brushing technique, by the way. You take it and you sort of brush very gently along pretty much everywhere. Everywhere that you want to be green for this section, just sort of brush it along like this. And try and follow the curves, because you want to get most of the paint running along the edges. And this is going to give that nice green tone later on. So just go through with all of this, just keep doing that, and I'll come back when I've done that for the whole of the green section. Okay, so I've finished dry brushing with Snot green, and this is the sort of look that you get from this stage. So you can kind of see where the green picks up the detail. Don't worry about being a bit messy with this section, because you can always clean up any other areas later on with a bit of black, or if they're supposed to be grey areas, then you can just fill in with grey later on when you paint that section. So next stage we're going to get out Goblin green this time, which is slightly lighter. You could always mix your colours instead. Actually, this needs a bit of shaking up. And we're going to take the same brush again, but instead of putting as much paint, we're going to put a bit less paint on. And same technique again, swirl it around so you get the colour going through the whole brush. But when you actually start applying it, you want less paint to be coming off the brush. And we're going to be more selective this time. Instead of painting the whole model, we just want to focus on different areas that either might pick up more light or look like they should be glowing a bit more. So if we just go over bits like this vent here, and this one on the other side, just to try and accent that green a bit more. So we've got one there and this one here, and actually the control panel as well at the front, because that's quite important. It's a very, very simple process, this. Sort of brushing quite randomly over it. So just finish off up here and put a bit more down the back. Because we want this to look very, very sort of eerie and sort of menacing, if we can get that. Put a bit more on the underside between the legs. Okay, so that's just about done for now. And finally we're going to do the same thing with Scorpion Green, but painting even less, and I'll be back after that's done. Okay, so we finished with all the greens now, essentially. So you can see that the main section of this this tomb blade is finished being painted, and we're going to get on to painting the Necron side and also the weapons on these bits, fin things here. So to work with that, you can choose your own metallic colour, obviously. Normally I'd go for something like bolt gunmetal, or if you're working with the new colours, lead belcher. But because this is, you know, one of the newer models, a lot of my newer stuff I'm actually painting with brighter colours. So I'm going to go with Ironbreaker for this one. Although if you're using old colours, probably chainmail is your best substitute. Give it a bit of a shake. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of this, try not to get it too wet, mine's a little bit wet at the moment, and we're going to apply this to all of these different silver areas like here, just to get a nice even coating over it. Be very careful of hitting the edges on when you're doing this section, because you want to try and get it as clean as possible. And actually, if you leave the corners open, it looks like a bit of shading in there. We're actually going to wash this later on to give it a nicer look, and just repeat the same on the other side of the fin. And once you've done this, you can repeat this process on all of the other areas that you want silver, like on the warrior. So I'll do this and I'll come back when that's done. Okay, so here's a look with all the silver bits done. You can see I've painted this sort of spine bit here, and the warrior, and also these fin bits and the engines as well. So the next thing we're going to move on to is the guns. And I'm going to paint them exactly how I painted my Immortal ones, so if you want to know how I painted them, just check out the link, which I'll put on there somewhere. And after that we're going to move on to buttons. Okay, so we're done painting the guns now, and we're going to move on to painting this little eyepiece that he's got in there. And we're going to use scorpion green on that, and a bit of goblin green to add a bit of depth. And what you want to do is take your sort of medium thin brush, and we'll start off with goblin green. Just get a small bit on the end, and then very gently apply that to the whole thing. Don't worry about getting it all even, because you want to make this look a bit like it's changing as he looks at it. So it could look a bit like some sort of cloud of green through which he looks. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need for the goblin green. Then you take a thinner brush, like this one, this is my thinnest, and scorpion green. Same sort of thing, get a small bit on the end. And this time you want to sort of put a bit on the middle and go around in circles, spreading the paint over the whole thing. But you want it to start from the middle and slowly get thinner as you get further out, so it looks a bit like it's glowing near the middle. Get a bit more paint for that actually. And I'll be back when this is done. Okay, so we have the eye sensor done now. It's just going to finish drying up while we carry on. And for the next step we're going to paint these button sensor things here at the front. So the first one we're going to do in red, and for this we take scab red, or some sort of dark red variant. And you want to paint that just directly onto it, so you get a nice dark red to start off. Next you have to let this dry, and we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so that red dot that we've got on there is just about dry now. So we're going to take another red, this time a light one, blood red. I'm going to take a very small amount of this on the end of the brush, and I'm going to try and see if I can get this on the camera. We want to very gently just get one corner, so that you can barely see the red on there. Get a bit more paint actually. So just very gently. There we go. Right, so we've got a nice little corner, if you can call it that, because it's a circle. But one very slight edge there has a bit of blood red on it. And finish off this little effect, because we're going to try and make it look a bit sort of round, a bit like a lens. We need a white. So have I got skull white somewhere? Looking through my paint box. Here we are, Skull White. So for this we just want a very small amount again. And what we're going to do is literally just put a little dot in the top corner opposite the lower half. So if you're actually looking at this in real life, it would look a bit like a gem. You can improve this actually with a gloss varnish, which I'll put on later. And we're going to repeat this effect here on the one below. But this time we're going to use a dark colour of shadow grey, a light colour of ice blue, and skull white again for the finish. So I'll finish this off and be back in a minute. Okay, so the other gem is done now, and all we've got to do is paint the different runes on here and give those a nice gloss varnish. So we'll start off with the varnish. I can show you how I do it. I get one of my less important brushes and just take the Games Workshop Art Coat varnish, dab it in, try and get quite a reasonable amount on the brush. Sometimes it can get a bit dry over time, so you might need to make it a bit more wet. Okay, so then we take this and just go over all the surfaces you want varnished. Try and get a nice smooth transition along the whole thing, because you don't want to end up with lumps in it. There we go. So they should reflect light a bit better. And now we're just going to paint the individual runes. So for this we need burnished gold. Now, the funny thing about Games Workshop golds is that they're all a bit watery, so you need quite a thick amount, really. And you have to keep topping up on colour. So if we start off here, I'll just show you one. But no, you can't really see it if I do that. Okay, try and do it like this. You just sort of very gently go over the whole thing, try not to get it in the gaps. There we go. Very gently. Go over that again, just so you can get try and get a nicer coating on it. Very simply, just carefully drag the brush across, and you end up with that. So I'll repeat this on the runes on his chest and on here, and then wash these and he'll be done. Okay, so now all of the runes have been burnished up, I guess, and pretty much the final stage is we're going to take this Bada Black wash. You could use another sort of black wash like Nuln Oil, or you can make your own. And you see we're using my dry brushing brush for this, actually. And just want to just wipe it over the whole surface. Sort of push towards the areas which you want darker. Try to avoid getting any bubbles in it, because they show up quite annoyingly. And same on this side. And of course underneath as well. Just go over the whole of that. And obviously you can wash any other areas that you want to, like the bottoms of these engine things, or you can even wash the warrior who's inside, just to make sure that all of the lines in his skeletal figure show up a lot better. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much finished now, so we'll just let this dry and I'll give you a look at the finished product. Right, this is the finished Tomb Blade. So it's just a quick look at it. Put the spinal thingy back on, the sensor thing. Get a bit closer, so you can have a closer look at it a little bit. And thanks for watching this video. Hopefully it was useful for you to see how I paint my miniatures. And don't forget that all the techniques used for this Tomb Blade can be transferred to any of my Necron videos. So if there's anything that you wanted to know about before, hopefully this has answered your questions. And stay tuned for more Warhammer videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.